What is going on, everybody? Switch over, please. Welcome back to, I guess, the second book club stream. I'm calling a mulligan on last week's because I didn't realize how short those chapters were, and I wasn't prepared enough. But I read pages 1 through 50 for this week, and I took notes, baby. So hopefully. If you guys are, as you jump into the stream here, if you got questions about the book, things, just tell me what you liked about it. I'm basically just going to go over probably chapter by chapter. I might stop after I kind of go through my thoughts on a chapter. If there's people in the chat that want to kind of talk about it, then let's get into it, dude. First of all, this book rocks. I think it's a trilogy. Definitely going to do. I'm not going to do the whole thing on Book Club, but I will read the next two and then do reviews on those. But fantastic writing. I mean, the chapters are short, but they pack a punch. They set tone. They give you all the information you need without a bunch of extra fluff. They paint the setting. They paint the characters. The action not a ton of action so far, but in the first chapter, there was some. Is good, and it's building a lot of suspense, especially how Ashley did it, where the first chapter is, I guess we'll break down that first chapter just real quick. Not real quick, we'll do a summary. That first chapter, Sergeant Laura, I'm going to say Laura because I can't remember how to pronounce her last name. But Sergeant Laura, the chapter starts off with, the whole chapter doesn't just start off with, she basically finds herself in an ambush. Her whole unit is in an ambush. They're getting hammered by the Chinese. They're Marines, by the way. They're called dogs, but they're like small mechs. Like, you actually have to be under a certain height to qualify as a pilot, which I think is actually pretty cool. And I'll get into that a little bit later. But dude, first chapter, it doesn't go well for her. So it sets this tone of, her squad gets completely wrecked, and there's a little bit of mystery. So it kind of goes in with the opening line, which kind of sets how what the gravity of their situation is, and then mixes in a little mystery because let me just read the first line real quick. It's Big Dog's fault we all died under a mountain in Afghanistan yesterday, and it's my fault we ended up dying again today. So, like, right off the bat, we know that, I guess I'll read the back of the book here in a second, but we know that there's some kind of weird supernatural thing going on where it's like Edge of Tomorrow, where she keeps dying again and again and again, and it sounds like she's not the only one. She actually sets the tone of the book off with things not going great for the characters, and then as the next chapters come, so chapter 2, it's the same day, but it's earlier in the day, and everything is fine. There's some things starting to change as far as a last-minute order comes in for a new mission that changes the mission they were supposed to be doing, and we start to build back up towards this moment of the first chapter, which I like that effect a lot. There's a lot of suspense involved with that, where it's like something's going to happen, which makes the fact that you're still kind of on the edge of your seat even more impressive. I like it, dude. Just because this is the first Ashley Pollard book that I've read doesn't mean that she is not a well-established author. And I'm assuming she is, because this is fantastic. Let me read the back of the book real quick, just to give you that. Because like I said, I'm starting over. I did this last week, but I was not prepared at all to do a book club stream. And it's hard to do by yourself, man. There's I have nobody to bounce ideas off of, so I've basically just got to read my own notes, and hopefully, there was somebody in the chat, but they hopped out, so I'm talking to myself right now, but we'll see how that goes. Anyway, it's hard to read. You can see, okay, first of all, Bad Dog, book 1, Gate Walkers, book 1. Gate Walkers is the name of the series. Bad Dog is the name of book 1. Dude, this art, by the way, I love this cover. Rad. That is, why am I having such a hard time lining this up, dude? Ashley R. Pollard. Everything's backwards. Okay. You can tell it's kind of hard for me to read this because it's like the red on the blue, but I'll give it my best shot. Not that I can't read, because that'd be weird if I was doing a booktube and I can't read. In 2071, Sergeant Tachikoma, that's her last name, Tachikoma, Laura Tachikoma, leads a Marine combat armor squad. She knows... Oh, there's a period there. She knows the Corps never promised her a rose garden, only the chance to fight for her country. Now, she faces her greatest challenge, 2 terrifying alien pillars that trapped her into reliving the same day again, the day she dies. Today, she needs every ounce of courage to save her people from annihilation. Based on cutting-edge theories on the nature of the universe, this white-knuckle military SF thriller contains drama and mystery. I feel like I just said that, dude. Gravity. I say gravity. I didn't say drama. Gravity. But is there really a difference? And I did say mystery. So I'm right on target there, dude. Yeah. So yeah, let's get a little bit more into the book. Like I said, yeah, they are short chapters. They're not all short. Like the ones with Laura, aside from the first chapter, are a little bit longer than the rest. And the ones with Laura are also the only ones that are in first person, which I like because it's like, it's her story. And that's basically how she ends chapter 1. Like, my name is Sergeant Laura Tachikama or whatever. And this is my story. And then, but every other POV is third person, which is cool because it's still like, there's a lot of things going on and gives you a more dynamic understanding of the story, which is cool. So we also see the point of view of a Chinese officer who's in charge of like a strike team of some kind. And he just got orders to go stop the Americans from finding something under this mountain in Afghanistan. He doesn't know what it is. He just knows that he has to stop it. And then we also see some POVs from people inside kind of her unit. There's like a POV from another officer. Maybe not inside her actual squad, but inside the same command. I don't really know how Marines structure their stuff. Like, I was a sailor, so it's a little bit different. But yeah, they're in the same command. And then there's a CIA agent who we see a POV from, and a Afghanistani warlord. So yeah, I definitely like how, I don't know how she kind of mixes that around. Like, I love I'm a big fan of first person. Some people like don't like first person. I don't know what their deal is. I really don't have anything against any POV. Like Kill Team, book 3 of the Galaxy's Edge series, that had a second person. I've never read an actual novel that had second person POV in it. So if the story's good, the story's good. I could care less what the POV is. But in this situation, I really like that she's clearly the protagonist, and I like that she's in first person, and that the rest of the people, like, you can tell that they're secondary characters, but basically we need their point of view to kind of flesh out the story a little bit. And like I said, they're short, punchy. Like, they pack so much information in such a few amount of pages, and it reads fast. Like, I know that's like, I don't know if that's a weird thing to say or not, but like, I feel like it just flows. Like, I'm just like flying through these pages. Like, went page 1 through 50, did not take me long at all. I was like, oh, I'm already where I need to be. So yeah, I'm an instant fan, huge fan. I guess I can't be huge, so I just started reading. I haven't finished the book yet. But yeah, I'm sold, man. Ashley is a phenomenal author. Yeah, and I would definitely say that she's real good at the mill sci-fi. I kind of was thinking, like, what makes something like good mill sci-fi? And I was kind of just thinking in my head. So it's got a good tone as far as like the attitude of the characters who are in the military. Consistent jargon, like uses like POD, plan of the day, Charlie Foxtrot for clusterfuck, dude, FOD walk down. I almost got PTSD. She's talking about they're doing a FOD walk down. I hate doing FOD walk down, or I hated it. Dude, what else you got? Oh, just like really well researched, like day to day, like the mundane. Fortunately, I wasn't on a ship when I was in the Navy, but I had plenty of friends that were in the barracks that were on ships, and yeah, she kind of nails the day-to-day. I mean, maybe not every single aspect, but she gets a very clear picture of the day in life on a Navy ship. So yeah, I think that really going after just how boring the military can be, because like in movies and stuff, you always see like it's always action and crazy stuff happening, but like in reality, there's a lot of quiet, boring time in the military, and especially depending on your rate. Like I was in a combat rate, so, or I guess MOS for non-Navy personnel, but I lost my train of thought there. Yeah, it's just it's not all super exciting, and even like for combat, like I said, I don't know anything about combat MOSs, but I can only imagine that they're not constantly fighting. So yeah, getting the day-to-day minutia knocked out, she nailed it on that. And they kind of like the personality, because there is like a 100% stereotypical like archetypes, right? There's like the dumb boots, like the over cocky, overzealous, maybe like new, in this case, I think it was Lance Corporals. There's the incompetent, kind of overconfident officers that don't want to listen. I think they're too good to listen to their enlisted, which I haven't seen that particular trope come in yet, I don't believe. There's like one officer that's kind of like gung-ho, but I don't necessarily know if he falls into that category just yet. There is the super grizzled, highly competent senior enlisted, or the NCOs. So you definitely get those personnel tropes knocked out for good male sci-fi. Yeah, and she hits a lot of those for sure. Alrighty, so yeah, that's basically what I got for the opening. Just my general thoughts on the book. Love it so far. I cannot wait to finish it and continue on with the rest of this trilogy. And then I'm going to definitely be looking and see what else Ashley's written. Like I said, I'm not a BattleTech fan. I have no intention of delving into that IP, just based on I don't know what I've heard about the company, and I don't know. I've got like I'm trying to catch up on Warhammer, Land and Sea, Galaxy's Edge. I don't have time to add BattleTech to my TBR. I don't. Not that I have anything against BattleTech. I think it looks rad. I think that's a cool IP. But like a lot of IPs in the modern era might have been hijacked a little bit, but you know, it's not what we're here to talk about tonight. So anyway, chapter 1, as I said, Sergeant Tachikoma. I'm gonna remember it forever now. Sergeant Tachikoma. Her unit lands in Afghanistan, and it's just, well, I guess, yeah, it's a disaster. They are under a surprise attack. It is not going well, and basically, they're getting hit. By the way, spoilers. There's going to be spoilers because it's a book club, and this is not a review. I'm kind of talking about everything that I like about each chapter by chapter. So if you don't want to get any spoilers, I mean, I don't want to tell you leave my channel, but leave the stream. That being said, I mean, it's chapter 1, so give me a break, dude. There's the Chinese are pinning them down with artillery. I think I can't quite tell. Like I can't tell if they set the nuke off or not. But basically, they're getting hammered. She gets ripped out of her mech suit, her dog. She's still strapped into her seat, but her seat gets ripped out. And so she's got a foreign object punctured through her thigh. Just missed her artery. She's like burned up. She's like her flight suit, or her like I forgot what it's called, but basically her pilot suit is soaked in her own blood. And she's crawling back across the battlefield. She can see like the wreckage of her like friends and her Marines, people screaming. Then she realizes it's her own screaming. It's not a good scene, or it's a good scene, but it's not good for her. And then she manages to make it back. She puts like a tourniquet on her leg, and slowly starts to fade into unconsciousness. And then it starts off with the chapter starts off with, like big dog got killed today, but it's my fault. We keep dying tomorrow or whatever, every other day. And then so the chapter ends with her basically becoming unconscious. And then she's like, my name is Sergeant Laura Tachikoma, and this is my story. And then we go into chapter 2, which jumps backwards. But before we go to chapter 2, so like I said, that first opening line was killer. Loved it. Loved it, loved it, loved it. Yes, like I said, jumps right into an ambush. I really I love. It starts off with this right after that first line. It goes into this paragraph where it talks about their Thunderhawk, which is how they get deployed. Like they're inside these planes called Thunderhawks, which are like tilt rotor, whatever aircraft. Called their like pet name is the chickens because they look like they're laying an egg or something. But anyway, the dogs like slide into that, and then when they get ready to deploy above their LZ, like a rack extends out, and then they drop down and land in the LZ. But that being said, there's this like, let me get the book open here. That's what you should do, right? There's this like juxtaposition between kind of heaven and hell. So you got this. Our dogs hit the dirt as the smoky white trails from incoming rockets target our LZ. Our Thunderhawks above jink left and right while launching decoys, sprouting angels' wings of incandescent light as they twist and turn to avoid the oncoming missiles. Our landing has announced the start of hell on Earth as the surrounding broken plain of rocks turn red from the glare of the explosions around us. So I feel like, I don't know if it was intentional. I'm sure it probably was to some extent. But first of all, it's a very striking visual. The angel's wings with the chaff going off behind the plane has a very with the whole angelic thing, very like supernatural and I guess a deathly tone to it. And the fact that she follows it up with that description of hell on Earth. I don't know. It's a very strong contrast, and I feel like maybe she was kind of trying to like go with like a theme, or maybe trying to paint the idea of like falling from heaven and then landing in hell. That's the vibe I got from it, and yeah, I liked it. That was a great opening scene. It hooked me, and I was ready to read the rest of the book, even if I wasn't doing a book club. Also, let's see here. Also, what chapter 1 does for us is it establishes the Chinese as an enemy, which I don't think anyone's real surprised by that. Yeah, they get severely overwhelmed. We already kind of hit on that. Yeah, and we also see a little bit of lore, I guess. They talk about how, or she actually talks about how, like America's kind of changed. It's not like America as we know it. They like her Marine Corps is called the Confederated States Marine Corps, and obviously we know that's not what the Marine Corps is called. It's called the United States Marine Corps. So something we don't know, but something has changed in this lore, in this world, that America is not as we would know it as the reader. Yeah. Then we learn chapter 1 also shows us that she is a dog pilot. And it goes into a little bit like what a dog is. Let me see here. Hers is completely destroyed. I already mentioned that. Yeah, there's this couple of parts where she is, there's a little bit of dark humor that Laura kind of puts forth, where she's like, oh, I'm covered in blood. It's my own blood. And that's like, I can't remember the exact line, but it's basically, she's like, that's not optimal. One does not want their own blood to be outside their body. Generally, you want that inside. And then she like chuckles. Now, that's probably more from the fact that she is suffering from blood loss and kind of delusional and in shock and stuff. But also, it's just like, I don't know, as far as like the narrative goes, there's some good dark humor. I love dark humor, and then that's kind of part and parcel with the military. So just add that, check that box for what makes a good mil sci-fi. Add that to the list. Yeah, got that. She's definitely, chapter 1, she's definitely in shock, whether from like just straight up too much pain or blood loss, probably both, to the point where she's like, oh, I'm lucky I wasn't inside my dog when it caught on fire and burned down. But also, am I lucky? Because this sucks. Maybe I would have been better just to die already. Just paints a real morbid picture of how dire her situation is. Yeah, same and same with her death crawl through the battlefield back to her rig to try and get her first aid kit to put a tourniquet on. And then she's like hearing screaming, and then the screaming stops, and she's like, oh, that's worse. And then she realizes, oh, that was me screaming. And dude, for such a short, I'm telling you, it's like 3 pages. Let me double check. I swear, chapter 1's like 3 pages, and it's literally 3 pages. And there's so much that Ashley pumps into this 3 pages. It's crazy. Crazy. But like I said, as it goes forward, Laura's chapters are much longer, so far, than the rest. Yeah, am I good enough? Yeah, so also, I don't know, at the end of this chapter, I don't know if Laura actually dies or if she just thinks she's definitely on the cusp of death. And she said in the beginning that it's Big Dog's fault that they died. It's her fault that they died again the next day. So she definitely dies. But at that exact moment, I don't know if she dies right there when she loses consciousness or if it's somewhere later in the day. I have no idea. But either way, we know that she's going to die and that she's going to repeat the day over again. So as far as I've read so far, I have not got to back up to that moment. But it's building and we're getting close. So to sum up chapter 1, freaking great opening. Loved it. Hooked me by the first line. Fantastic use of description and contrast. The contrast in the second paragraph, between that opening line and that second paragraph, kind of contrasting heaven and hell and like falling from heaven. What a great opening for a book. That was freaking rad. And then it quickly just like unfolds into a super chaotic scene, which I'm all about it, dude. Love it. More carnage, the better. It establishes who the enemy is, the tech, the setting, alternate future America, and probably the world too, and like geopolitical relationships. Introduces our protagonist. She's in shock. She has a sense of being overwhelmed as she's dying. She's in terrible pain. She's delirious. And it also builds a real gritty, gruesome feel and tone, which you kind of want if you're reading a mill sci-fi. You don't want to read a mill sci-fi where nobody's dying, nothing's happening. So yeah, that's just chapter 1. Let's get on to chapter 2. This is still, it's the same day, earlier in the day, obviously, but we're still in Laura. And this is more of like an introduction to her and kind of getting to know her character more than just a person who's trying not to die. Yeah, and right out of the gate, like the first 2 paragraphs kind of play on the theme, and it's like a parallel, idea or whatever of the whole Edge of Tomorrow, the repeating day, for like the actual supernatural theme and plot of the book that she keeps repeating the day. Well, in this, it's straight up compared to like the monotony and the day-to-day of being on a ship and just doing the same military routines day in and day out. And she even uses the word Groundhog's Day because of just how repetitive everything is. So I love the imagery. I love the symbolism, I guess. I don't know if it's a symbol, but just like how she's connecting the day-to-day life of the military to being stuck in a time loop where you die every single day. I like it. That's good use of craft there. I already kind of touched on this, but tons of mill lingo. Like I said, Charlie Foxtrot, all the different acronyms for the different, plan of the day or FOD walk down, all that stuff. It's definitely seems like, I don't know if she was in the military, but she definitely talked to somebody or did some research. She kind of, she nails it. It's not just like the lingo, but even like the like procedures, doing like operations, thing like that. Feels very authentic. And if that's for me, I love that when the author gets it right, especially if they're not veterans or active duty or whatever. It's just fun. It's great to see. I love it. Takes me back a little bit, even though obviously I was not a badass mech pilot. I was just air crew, loadmaster on a plane. But yeah, she does a great job, and I think it's pretty clear that she either already has a very thorough knowledge of just military structure and life, or she did a lot of research. But I think from what I've heard, she's written for Battletech, so she probably already has a pretty good idea. And like I said, I don't know if she could be a veteran. I have no idea. But yeah, I think she probably already had a pretty good idea of what military life was like. It does sound like she did some research, though, and to figure out, learn more about cutting-edge theoretical goings-ons of the universe as far as time loops go. So that's cool. I don't even know. Who do you even talk to? Who do you call it? Like, can you like tell me how would a time loop work? Can you tell me that? Like, I'm trying to get this Marine unit stuck in a time loop where they die every day. Can you break that down for me so I can be realistic? I need a guy for that. So we see a few more things. We see she's on a boat called the Hornet. That's the name of the ship. And it is a Kearsarge class amphib assault ship, which, I mean, anyone familiar with the Marine Corps or the Navy, usually the Marines, when they're on a ship, I believe, again, I did 6 years in the Navy. I was never on a ship. But usually they're on the amphib ships because that's how they deploy Marines. But I'm pretty sure they're probably on carriers too, if I had to guess. We learned that, this is more lore, I guess, but I mean, Chapter 2 is a lot of just kind of character and world building, getting to know Laura a little bit better, and then also like she kind of unfolds the world for us. So we know that there was a World War III. I don't know exactly when it was, but it was sometime after 2049, and that the Confederated States, I guess they were, if I was reading that sentence correctly, they were already a thing by 2049. So I don't know what happened before 2049 with America that made us the Confederated States. I'm sure we might learn as the book goes on, because she's already dropped in later chapters a few more dates and events that happened that kind of shaped military policy and public policy, international relations. So good world, like such good world building for how short these chapters are. I'm kind of like blown away by her efficient use of words. Yeah, I didn't stop after chapter 1 because there wasn't really a whole lot of people. It's just been like 1 or 2 people coming in and out. So if you've read the book and you want to chime in the chat, let me know. And then we get a good idea of Laura's stature as far as like her build and her height. And it's not just like for description purposes, so you know what the character looks like. It's actually pertinent to the plot and her job as a dog pilot, because we learned that all the dog pilots are basically the runts of the Marine Corps, but they kind of got this thing where like, yeah, we're not like 7 foot tall meatheads, but we're still badass Marines. Because of our low height, we're the only ones qualified to pilot the dog suits. So, I don't know. I just like that that flavor, that I don't know what the word I'm looking for is. Lore, I guess. Yeah, just that like they're small, like they're looked at like, okay, a Marine needs to be a big, muscly fighter. So if you're short, you're kind of discounted. But in this case, you're actually more powerful and deal more damage than the bigger Marine. So I don't know. I like that dynamic, I guess, is the word I'm looking for. The ship life in this chapter is very thoroughly described, from her coffin rack, like her being in the middle bunk, how dark it can get, everybody carrying a flashlight, because if the lights go out from time to time, and then you're basically stuck in this metal tube and you can't see anything. And when the lights are on, they're like these red lights that make it so you can sleep, but you can still see in the dark. There's always music going on at like all times, just so there's no sudden noise or lack of noise will wake people up. There's just constantly music going. How nasty the floors or the decks on a ship are. So she walks around in her she calls them flip-flops, I think, but we call them shower shoes in the Navy. Yeah. All the way down to like the paint color of the ship's interior walls, like what she's got decorating her rack. Just a really the rationing of water. Like she has 2 minutes to take a shower, so she like gets wet, turns the water off, soaps up, turns the water back on. Kind of compares like how much the sailors complain about that versus how much she appreciates it, because it's better than using wipes to clean yourself in the desert. Kind of shows you the difference between the two branches. And mofos, dude. Yeah, basically like, and she doesn't even like really hate on them. She's like, this is all they have, so this is what they complain about. Whereas like, it's all relative, I guess. She's not like looking down at the sailors for complaining about that. She's just like, what else are they can complain about, Because everybody everywhere complains about their job. Even it doesn't matter if it's total crap or pretty cush. People are going to complain about their work. Put that in the pocket so the buzzers don't go off no more. Ship life, yeah, got it. Bare Essentials, hit it. So her company is called the Hound Dog's First Combat Armored Suit Recon Company. Now, they were originally in their flotilla of ships aboard the Hornet. We're supposed to be doing a joint training mission with the Indian Army in the Indian Ocean, but a fragmentary order was issued, and that got changed, and kind of threw a wrench in their plans, and kind of worked out for her because she's like, I can kind of chill and sleep in and just whatever, sleep in like 5 a.m, whatever. But yeah, so we like starts off like whatever their plan was got scrapped, and now they're having to adapt to a new plan that they don't really know what the plan is yet. So we already kind of see, because what chapter 1 showed us, we can kind of already infer where this new plan is taking us. Yeah, there was a line in here. It says, she said, and it was in regards to basically the Marines encouraging, at least before an op, I think, officers to sit with their enlisted at chow to kind of build a little bit of camaraderie before an operation. And so Ashley, or I guess in this case, Laura, thinks in her head, who says the military never evolves in the face of change. And there's another kind of hits on that point later in another chapter with a different character, basically kind of talking about how the Marine Corps, with its like legacy and history and kind of necessity to kind of focus on, I don't know, macho-ness and aggressiveness, balances out with like modern socio-cultural trends with like, inclusion and all that stuff. So she kind of touches on that a couple times. And it is an interesting topic, because like my personal opinion is like, it's the military. It should be a strict meritocracy, but it's very political, whether you want to believe that it is or not. And that does come into play. So it's, I don't know. I like that she touched on it, and it's just adds more realism and flavor and depth to her world. Yeah, kudos. And she doesn't like, I don't even know, not that it matters, but I don't know which way politically she leans. It just seems like she's kind of taking an honest approach to it, which I respect. Yeah, it's cool that she touches on it. There's also this line on page 10. It says, being given a choice is always a good thing in my book. I don't know if that's going to come in later, if that's like foreshadowing. It kind of just stuck out to me, so I wanted to mention it. We learn that she's got special potty underwear that she wears when she's inside her rig so she can go piss and, not get soiled. Which, honestly, I've read, I'm not a huge aficionado of mech books, but I've read all 8 Land and Sea books. I've read Order of the Centurion, The Lost Legion, which was great. And maybe I'm just like brain holing it, but I don't remember that necessarily ever coming up. And I was like, you know what? What do they do when they're stuck in these suits and they got to go potty, dude? So I like that she addressed that, and it's a cool bit of lore. And I honestly, I love lore. Some lore is a little bit too in-depth and overly complicated, but when it's just a rich, cool lore, especially if it's I don't want to say simplified, but if it's straightforward and it just adds flavor to the world, I'm all about. I love that kind of stuff. So in this chapter later, so she gets ready. It's basically just a day in the life of a Marine on a Navy amphib ship, is what chapter 2 is. A lot of character building, a little unraveling of the lore of the world. So after she's done getting ready, she goes and she meets her unit for chow. And you can see everyone's you can see what the personalities are. People are, they're BSing with each other, kind of jabbing at each other as you would expect in the military. It's just kind of how it goes. Everyone makes fun of each other because it's freaking hilarious, and it's what we like to do because it's boring, and we like to laugh. So there was a mention why do we call it? Why do they call the rigs dogs? And there's something called the Big Dog Prototype. I don't exactly know what that is yet, but it sounds like where the suits came from. DOG, D-O-G, stands for Dispersed Operation and Guidance, and it is a virtual interface system that allows suits to be driven over any terrain with ease. And I'm pretty sure I read the feet have tracks in them, so they can drive around and get up to speed on roads, which is pretty rad. I never thought about like walking mechs having tracks on their feet. That's awesome. But yeah, that's chapter 2. There's nobody in the chat, so book clubbing it up by myself. That's great. Last week I did a lot better. Last week I had more people in, but not doing so hot this week. People are coming and going. Chapter 3. Now this is where we get into our first antagonist. This is a Chinese officer. He Sheng Wei, I believe that's his rank, and his name. Okay, don't cancel me for effing this up. Louis Kinming. That's his name. He's the officer in charge of this unit, company, whatever, of Chinese special operations battlesuit crews. He comes off as super competent, very calculating, and kind of exudes this experience because he's been given his orders. He has these 3 junior officers in there, and he's kind of testing them to see what their what they would do, and then he's giving them kind of feedback or kind of going a little. I guess he does a lot of Sun Tzu quotes, but since I'm a Westerner, it's very Aristotle feeling where he's they give him an answer and then he kind of pokes a hole in their answer with questions. So he comes off as a wise, been there, done that, battle-hardened officer that knows what he's doing, and he's trying to. It kind of feels like he's trying to pass on some of his experience and his wisdom and knowledge onto his junior officers. So he seems cool. I know he's the bad guy, but in his world, he's just serving his country. So so the mission is the Chinese government got intel from wherever that the Americans are looking for something under a mountain in the Spingar region of Afghanistan. I have no idea what that is. where that is other than Afghanistan. And the Chinese government wants him, because he is the closest asset they have to that site. They want him to go in and basically at all costs prevent the Americans from getting whatever it is they're after. They haven't told him what it is that they're after, just that he's been cleared to use nuclear weapons to bring the mountain down to stop the Americans from getting to it. So it's interesting. That's like a very weighty set of orders to follow, and to not even have a single clue as to why you're doing what you're doing. Yeah, I mean, and him being like a lead officer, I'm guessing like a CEO of whatever his company is, he's got to have a pretty high level of security clearance. So the fact that he doesn't know, that's high. Yeah, and there's a little bit of it's because the same thing kind of happens with the Americans. Like the CIA is basically the ones who, why do I keep saying basically? The CIA are the ones who changed the Hornets orders and the combat recon, whatever, the dogs company's orders from doing the joint training with India to this new thing in Afghanistan. And they do tell them, it's in a later chapter, but basically all they know is that they're going in for a search and rescue. But they have no idea what the people that went in were searching for. And all they know is like a magnetic signal coming from under a mountain. That's it. So both the Americans and the Chinese have no idea, at least like the people who are going to be putting boots on the ground, have no idea what they're looking for, what's going on. They just have like very vague orders that can lead to life or death. But then it's like funny because in like the locals, like the Afghan warlords and his people, they kind of, I mean, it's a little bit more superstitious and based like in their religion. But they've actually seen the thing, and they at least know what's under the mountain as far as what it might be capable of. I don't know. It's just funny that the locals who are very like low tech have a better understanding of what's going on than the advanced countries' boots on the ground. I enjoyed that. But yeah, that's pretty much that's chapter 3. It just introduces the Chinese officer, a couple of his junior officers, and the fact that he received orders to go stop Americans from retrieving something under the mountain in Afghanistan, and cleared to use nukes in order to stop them. Obviously, they want to like try and prevent anyone finding out that they were involved, but at the end of the day, the primary objective is to stop the Americans from getting the treasure under the mountain, getting the booty. So chapter 4, we're getting closer to that. I think I read 7 chapters, was the first 50 pages. So chapter 4, this is going to be another secondary character, but this one is on the ship, and he's also a dog pilot with Laura's company. That's Captain Johansson. Same thing, it just kind of reinforces the fact that we know that dog pilots are short. He goes into this colonel's office, and the dude's like 6'5" or some crap, just jacked out of his mind, and he feels super tiny next to this massive Marine. But inside the colonel's office is a CIA agent, and basically this chapter is just Johansson being introduced to the CIA agent, Mr. Anderson. Great name for a CIA agent, by the way. And learning that they're like, not why, but I guess why, yeah, because they got the frag order, that their mission into the Indian Ocean was canceled, and that they got this new mission called Mission Clean Sweep, where they have to go into the Spingar region of Afghanistan and recover an Army Special Operations unit that crash landed and have basically reached the end of their operation window and not reported in. So they're believed to be missing. So yeah, the Marines now, this dog company needs to go in and either look for survivors. They got to pack for, possible med evac. But yeah, they got to go in, recover the bodies, recover survivors if there are any, recover the downed aircraft, and provide protection in that mission. But other than that, they don't really know what's going on, other than that there was a magnetic pulse, a magnetic energy detected under the mountain that apparently the U.S. government is interested in. Yeah, we also learn in this chapter that America has been kind of down and out and has not, I don't know why, I don't know if it's from World War III. Well, I would assume so. But basically, like, they were doing this mission with this joint training mission with the Indian military in the Indian Ocean, one to train against like combating pirates, but also to kind of show the world that like America is back. Like China and Russia, they apparently are aware that they've kind of been spying on this flotilla. But it's kind of the point. Like, they kind of want to like make themselves known that America is back on the world stage. So I'm very interested to see, like, I mean, I don't think it has anything, maybe it does, anything to do with the plot other than just being the backstory. Kind of like with Land and Sea, how there's like the Russo-Bratva War. It doesn't really have anything to do with the plot. It's just backstory and lore for the world. Although it does come into play sometimes, like with Ties of Redemption. Like, you can see that war affected the relations between the Americans and the British in that book. So I don't know. Maybe I'm sure it'll come into play down the road. But yeah, I'm very intrigued to see what happened to America. So then, yeah, it's pretty short and sweet chapter. Chapter 5 kicks off. Basically, it switches from Captain Johansson right over to Mr. Anderson, the agent. Basically, like, high five as they're walking out the door. So it's like instant flip. Like the time flows well with that transition. Yeah, I've already talked about how I like. I'll say it again. Yeah, I like how there's this idea of like this physical limitation with being short, and I don't know. I like that instead of being a limitation, it's actually a requirement to be this badass pilot. That's cool. I like it. And then Johansson said something about like, are you surrogate qualified to Mr. Anderson, who I guess used to be in the Air Force. And from what I was reading, it sounds like that is the name of like an Air Force mech. It's a big stompy stomp one, a lot bigger than the dogs. And like reading through some of the other chapters, there's I want to say the Army's is called the Pace. Dude, I feel like there's probably a whole buttload of different mechs, which I guess that makes sense. Because it's not like there's one kind of tank in the military, right? And then we see something called an ORP, which is an orbital recon platform. And that's what Mr. Anderson was on when he was in the Air Force, which basically, like, it was like over the polar ice caps and just helps him slingshot messages, across the globe. All kinds of crazy stuff. But same thing. Chapter 4 and 5 are like really short and sweet. Kind of just develop the world a little bit more, but also kind of show us why Laura was in that chapter 1 in the first place. So we're getting closer to that point. So anyway, chapter 6, they go into Operation Clean Sweep as far as like the mission briefing. So they go into like the briefing room. The rest of the squad learns that satellites picked up this magnetic pulse under the mountain in the Sigar region of Afghanistan. They basically get all the pertinent information. There's an Afghan warlord called Yeshua bin Yusuf. Oh yeah, so the Army's mechs are called PACE suits. PACE, so power, armor, combat, environment. The Marines are called MARPACE for Marine Pace. It's just the Marine version. So obviously the Marines have the dogs and they have the MARPACE. So more mechs introduced. But that's just kind of like a glancing mention. They don't go super detailed on what a PACE looks like or anything. Like I said, they're their mission was moved from the Indian Ocean, from no longer doing the joint training with India, going to now the South Arabian Sea. Obviously, they're going to Afghanistan. Yeah, the rest of this chapter kind of feels out a lot of the different attitudes and personalities of the other characters as they kind of get ready for the mission. She's going through checking her other pilots and making sure they're going through their mechs and make sure everything's up to par and that their mind's right. We learn that the dogs can actually be broken down in field. I don't know exactly what that means, but it sounded like because they were bringing med kits or whatever with them, med pack outs for medivacs, she was like, oh, that means you're going to have to break down the dog in the field. So I don't know what that entails for the pilot, if they're going on foot then because they're putting a wounded soldier into the mech. I don't know. You can also reconfigure like the weapons and the different loadouts for basically what kind of mission you're going to do. So in this case, they want to go light and fast. So they want to get in and out. So yeah, this mission, like I said, it's gonna be light and fast rather than like packing a buttload of ammo and extra weapons or whatever. Mentioned it a little bit earlier in the stream, but the aircraft that takes them in and out is the Thunderhawk. God, stop hitting stuff, dude. Jeez. The Thunderhawk V-32 chicken tilt fan. Now, the chicken is just like slang, like a term of endearment for the plane. A little bit more lore gets developed. So we learn that their combat armor had been developed in response to the Chicago Massacre of 2037. Yeah, Chicago Massacre. Well, who massacred them? Oh, get this, dude. Combat androids got hacked in the 010 hack and killed a bunch of people. So from then on, fully autonomous androids were, as she says, a no-no in the military. Yeah, the dog pilots, they're kind of reminiscent of like an airplane pilot, but they're more hands-on with their machines. They actually go in and like check the mechanics and the readiness and the systems. Not that like pilots do pre-flight checks and they can do all that, but I wouldn't say a pilot goes and like gets their hands dirty too often. At least on the aircraft I was on, that wasn't really a thing. They would show up and do, their pre-flight checks, which was just kind of going through the systems and making sure everything was operating as it's supposed to. But they wouldn't actually put their hands on it, work on it. They have, the dogs have a camouflage capability called chameleon flage. Basically, there's panels all over them that makes them invisible-ish. Obviously, works better if they're not moving. The more they move, they can start to, look like squiggly lines. If any of the plates are damaged, then they don't work. But obviously, at that point, if you're like engaged in battle, you're not really worried about it. Yeah, there's a lot in this chapter. There's a lot of talking shop and kind of giving us descriptions of different weapons and like what setup you'd use depending on like what mission you're trying to do. Again, it's more world building, making everything a little bit more tangible and fleshed out. Okay, so something also that's cool about the pilots, they have the combat utility suits, which are basically their flight suits, but they have one, like I said, they have the PP setup. They are air conditioned and they have a bunch of sensors built into them that basically, once you're in your suit, it kind of makes the suit an extension of your body. She does a really good job. So once they actually get in their rigs and then they get loaded up in the chicken, and the flight deck goes into like FOD walk down, and it just it's a really good description of flight operations. Obviously, it's made up because we don't have mechs, but generally it fits pretty well. I bought it as a former Navy air crewman. We learned the flotilla's configuration. There's one sub underneath them. a bunch of there's like destroyers, other small carriers. And the actual chapter ends with the whole unit getting actually dropped. Like they fly in, she's snoozing it up a bit, catching some Z's on the trip in, and then once she gets over the LZ, they all drop in, and it kind of ends on a little bit of an ominous note. She's like, "It's quiet, a little too quiet." I mean, classic line, dude. And then that brings us to the last chapter of tonight's book club, chapter 7. Now we get a third-person view of the local warlord in Afghanistan. This is Yeshua bin Yusuf's camp. They're hanging out like in a cave with like a fire going, drinking tea. He's very revered by the people around him. They call him the guided one, and they respect what he says. They look to him for wisdom and guidance. And so they're basically talking about, so during the briefing, the mission briefing, the Marines they were told that American satellites spotted Afghan forces going into this area where the army, I can't remember if the army later crashed there, but anyway, in that area, whether they were there before or after the army, I don't remember. But basically that the Afghans showed up and then they dipped out. And in this chapter, we kind of see why that was the case. Apparently, which this part would be familiar to us because we know that like Taliban and stuff like that would like dig caves and try and stay underground to avoid our drones, which Yusuf mentions. He's like, we've been digging caves for 60 years to avoid drones, and a little bit of Tolkien going on here where they dug a little bit too deep, and they came across this weird pillar thing. And so we see a couple Afghan words, and I asked Grok to help me out with the translation. So they refer to it as a Kurafa, which basically means myth. So they think they found this mythological object, and they uncovered it under this mountain that America's interested in, and that China is interested in stopping America from getting. And China actually allies with Yeshua. And they're like, Yeshua and his men are like, can we trust the Chinese? Because they don't like any foreigners, really. They don't want outsiders. They don't share their values. But they're basically like, maybe we can set evil on evil and, save the world, whatever. Throat's getting a little dry there. But anyway, so they find this thing under the mountain, and like Kurafa, like I said, that's more of a vague general term, which means myth. They're scared of it, which, like I said, explains the satellite images of the CIA seeing them haul ass out of there. They believe that there's something called an Ifrit in the pillar, and I looked it up. It's they're like malevolent spirits or demons in Islamic myth. So another word you might recognize a little bit better is Ifrit. So if you played like Final Fantasy, that's the only place I'm familiar with Ifrit. He's like that one's like a fire demon that you can like summon. Yeah. But anyway, that's an Ifrit. Generally not thought of as nice. Like I said, they uncovered it when they were digging. They mentioned, so they believe that this pillar and the Ifrit and all of the things. So yeah, so there's this thing called Yawm ad-Din, which means Day of Judgment. They believe that the modern world and all its inventions and possessions kind of are heralding and bringing about this Day of Judgment. And they're kind of worried that the Ifrit is part of that. And they really, they want to stop the Ifrit. They don't think, like if the Day of Judgment comes, they believe that's, Allah's will. And so they believe that Allah will protect them. But they don't believe that the Ifrit being released is Allah's will. So they actually want to stop it from getting unleashed. Like it's so evil to them that Yeshua is as evil as he thinks outsiders are and like modern civilization is. He still thinks that the Ifrit is worse than infidels, basically. We also see they have witnessed and they know that this pillar is, they're not just scared of it for no reason. One of their people was like mesmerized by it, drawn in, and as soon as he touched the pillar, he died. So they have a very legitimate reason to be afraid of this pillar that they think has an Ifrit, which is an Islamic demon, inside of it. Yeah, so, I mean, I don't think that's where the story's going. I don't think that there's an Islamic demon inside it, but that's what they think it is. But just because they might be wrong on that point, they're still right that it's dangerous, and I would say they're right to be cautious and not want people messing around with it. Oh yeah, they also said that the pillar showed them like really bizarre scenes, like in their head, of like the sun rising in the west, like mountains moving, all this crazy like apocalyptic imagery. They kind of like went all trippy and saw that when they went into the cave where the pillar was at. So just another reason that they are terrified of it. We see another Islamic word here called shayateen. Shayateen means devils or demons, but that's the term that they use to describe Americans and the Chinese. Basically, it sounds like any outsider who is an infidel, if I had to guess. That's super blasphemous in their eyes. They just call them demons or devils. Shayateen. Like I said, yeah, they're working hand in hand with the Chinese because they want to stop the Americans. And at this point, they're just like, we might get betrayed. They might trick us, but it's at least worth the effort to try and stop the Americans from getting to the Ifrit. Yeah, I'm honestly kind of rooting for the Afghans in this one. Like, they're like, yo, dude, like, materialism's bad, consumerism's bad. Just be happy with your life and what you got. And we need to stop, by any means necessary, the modern Westerners or Chinese or whoever from trying to unleash this uber evil thing that can destroy the world. I mean, like, normally I'm like, okay, well, I don't know about that region of the world, but seems like they're the good guys on this one. I don't know. But yeah, I think that's the last thing I had for these first 7 chapters. Let me see. Yeah. Dude, this book is rad. Highly recommend it. If you're the one viewer just joining right now, go pick this up, dude. It's a trilogy, or gal, I don't know what you are. But so far, it's fantastic. Ashley Pollard is killing it. Does a great job. Once I'm finished with this, I'm definitely going to go check out some more of her work. And yeah, she's on my list of favorite authors. I'm very pleasantly surprised with this. Not surprised. I'm very pleasantly satisfied, and I'm enjoying this book a lot. I'm glad I just happened to be perusing Blaine Pardoe's blog and saw that he recommended it, scooped it up, and yeah, the rest is history. But that's all I got for tonight's stream. If you came by for, a second or two, thank you so much. If you're watching this stream later, not live, totally fine. Leave your thoughts in the comment section. Let me know what you thought about the book, what you thought about the stream. If you want to come on, should have brought some water, dude. Dang. If you want to come on the stream, like, actually have your face on the camera, let me know. Send me a DM. My X account is Dirtbaggery BR for book reviews. Send me a DM, dude. Or just put it in the comments of this video and let me know, because I would love to have another person to actually talk to in these streams. And honestly, at this point, you don't have to commit to doing it every week. I do Mondays at 7 p.m. Pacific. But if it's like one of the things where you want to do it, but you don't want to commit to every single week, if you just come on like whenever you have a Monday free, Monday night, and you want to hop on, let me know. If we mesh well together, no problem. But if not, if you don't want to do that, feel free to jump in the chat and follow along with this book club. I haven't decided what book I'm going to do next. I might do a John Ringo book, honestly. One that I picked up for Christmas. But yeah, that's all I got. Please like, share, comment, and subscribe if you're not already. And I'll see you guys next Monday night. Have a good one. Probably should have got this genned up before I said that, but anyway, night-night.